we had a really great drive, and we pulled over and we just got out the car, both of us beaming with smiles, and we just went over and just gave each other a high five. That was properly good fun.
I just raw dogged it. I sat for 3.5 hours, no music on, no nothing. I just raw dogged it then.
It's not really a car sale because it was basically a charitable donation by a billionaire. So it's effectively a tax write-off from what it looks like, or money laundering, or both.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Ottano podcast, and we are back, episode 9. Wow. We're almost at double digits in terms of episodes now, which is exciting. But we are back, your usual hosts, myself, TJ, my friends here, Elliot and Ben. And we've got some cool topics lined up for today. We're going to be talking about the best performance car for the UK, given the roads in the UK and driving here. What was the best sort of sports performance car that you can get? We're going to be talking about the new McLaren MCL6 GT. I don't know if that's how they're describing it. I'm sure it's not the McLaren 6 GT. And then we're going to be talking about the $40 million Luce. No, we probably won't talk about that very much. We're going to be talking about Monterey car results, as it was just Monterey Car Week. And there were some interesting results that came out of that, which I think warrant a discussion on sort of where the prices of particularly special cars are going. So we're going to get into all of that. But as we usually like to begin, we're going to be talking about what we've been doing with cars this past week. And I'm going to hand over to Ben or Elliot to talk about what they got up to on the weekend, because I was away returning from a holiday, and they were having a lot more fun in cars than I was in my Toyota Urban Cruiser rental car on holiday. So over to you boys. Tell us about what you've been doing over the weekend.
Well, given I've consumed,
both been doing the same thing, so
yeah.
Well, I consume more of the airtime recently in Week in Cars with gearbox related problems. So Elliot, I'll let you kick off.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, we were obviously in Wales this weekend for our Wales UK tour, which went really, really well. It was super good fun. Everyone had a really great time, which I think is the first thing on the list ticked off. It's supposed to be great fun, and I think everyone really enjoyed it, which is great. We had a lovely lineup of cars, which which was full up of a proper mixture of different brands, but quite a few prancing horses, which everyone loves to see. And it was also nice parked outside our lovely spa hotel. So it was a really good weekend. Yeah, really, really good weekend. Some fantastic roads as we expected, but maybe those that were joining weren't quite expecting. So there are some good roads in the UK. They are out there. You got to go looking for them, and you got to know where to look, but they are out there. They do exist.
Out of interest, Elliot, how many people on the tour would you say had actually like properly driven good roads in Wales? Like, was it their first time, or had these guys sort of done quite a few tours of Wales?
Only really, I think there was one or two that had driven them before.
Two, I think. Yeah.
So not many at all. I think ultimately a lot of people just don't know where to start, which is where we come in.
Yeah.
I mean, we even had a couple of people. One chap on the trip was born in Wales and so grew up there. Another had lived there not for the last 20 years, but before then that was his home. And even he said to us that we found a lot of good new roads that he hadn't been on. And I think you've done that route many times before, TJ. It's certainly an interesting route, because we divided it into 3 sections. And the first section, I would say, is good mixed balance driving, a good selection of sort of fast flowing roads and some more technical roads. The second section is much narrower and is more tight and twisty.
More technical, yeah.
Yeah, definitely more technical. And then the third section is, I think, everyone's favorite section, because it really opens up. And once you've been through the technical section and you're going around there, and it suddenly opens up and you can see a mile ahead of you, and you can really exploit the car. There's also less traffic on those bits of the road as well. So it is easier to overtake if you get someone a little bit slower in front of you. It's just a really good mix. Your only risk is that if you get stuck on section 2 behind a camper van, like we did for a short amount of time, you know that it happens on UK trips, and everyone's aware of that, which is why we of course love the European stuff, because that just doesn't really happen. But it was great fun. That hotel was fantastic. Everyone was going for a swim before dinner, coming to the bar. And for people who haven't been there, it's got one massive bar, it's got 2 great restaurants, it's got a great outdoor area. And not only was the dinner great, the spa great, having drinks around the bar great, but even once we'd done the driving, like actually one of the most memorable bits of the trip was sitting in the car park at the end with a beer and watching a Fiesta ST that Rob Cubitt had bought, which I guess he's going to try and raffle. And we were just laughing and joking. And I think that's what those trips are all about. It's the camaraderie you build, it's the friendships you gain. And, the reviews have been great on Google and obviously to us personally. And looking forward to the next one in September.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, actually. Like one of the best things about doing these tours, like obviously the driving is super fun, but one thing you don't get if you just go and do this stuff on your own or with one of your mates is you don't get that real camaraderie that allows you after the day. Like Ben said, one of my favorite parts of the whole tour was actually just once we finished the drive, everyone at the hotel, stopped, had a drink, and just chatted about the day, chatted about some of the favorite parts, and it's just a really it's a really nice thing to just be able to you build rapport and friendship with these people over that period, and then to go through that experience together and experience all those, like everyone's experienced the same drive that you have, and you kind of all get different people's perspectives from different types of cars, people talking about driving it as a manual gearbox and this road was really fun in the manual, and then other people who have got big V12 Ferraris being like, I like this bit where I could properly actually put my foot down and stuff like that. It's actually just so nice. And that's one of my favorite things about it, and I think that's why the European tours are so much fun, because you get that, but you get it over not just 1 or 2 days, you get it over that whole 7 to 10 day period, where by the end you've made actually really good friendships, and that's what really sticks with you, I think, and that's what kind of actually gives you the bug, makes you want to go and do it again. Rob Cubitt is a good example of that, and like he mentioned, he actually put a nice Google review online after the trip where he spoke about that kind of camaraderie, and that being something that you don't see from when you see the pictures and the videos and stuff afterwards. Like that gives you an impression of the cars and the places, but you don't understand that camaraderie piece is actually one of the main things that just makes it such an enjoyable thing to do. So it was really great. Really loved it, and I think there's a few people with some road trip blues this week, me included.
You included after you drove my Alfa quite a bit as well.
I did, yes. Yeah, I actually spent the whole of the drive behind the wheel of the Alfa, which I've driven that car before, but I've never spent a full day of driving behind the wheel. And actually, in truth, I thought it was going to be a bit too big and a bit too powerful for the UK roads, and I thought I'd come away feeling a bit more like, I didn't really get to fully, enjoy it. But that car is absolutely fantastic. Like it is just it's actually such an entertaining car. And it really shrinks around you, that car. It's one of the few cars that I've driven of that size which genuinely feels half as big as it is. I don't know. I don't know how they've done that. Maybe it's, we were trying to talk about this on the way home, like maybe it's the driving position. I think the driving position is really nice, especially with the Sparco bucket seats. But it's just a brilliant car. I mean, I had a great time driving that thing. And Ben, you had a bit more of a workout in the Lotus.
I had a massive workout, particularly given I did the route twice. So for the listeners, it's about a 5-hour loop, maybe a little bit more, obviously longer than that with stops and lunch. And on the Friday night, so I got up a day in advance, everyone seemingly in the UK had their phone buzzing, an emergency alert that there were wildfires, and the hotel was saying, yeah, it's been quite bad in Wales. And I was looking on the traffic alerts online, and I couldn't see anything in northern Wales. I thought we're probably fine, but I don't want to turn up with 30 people and 20 cars and a road be closed because there's a fire. That would not be great.
Yeah.
So I went and did the route the day before. So I did the whole route just by myself, so I could do it a little bit more quickly. And first of all, it was absolutely fine. It was good fun. But I'd stupidly done a workout in the gym just before I went out, and a shoulder workout as well. And let me tell you, you don't want to be doing a shoulder workout before driving a Lotus Exige with no power steering. So I was like, I already had DOMs. I'm sat here, I'm driving like this, and the ache in my shoulders at the end of the day was so extreme. I was just thinking, oh, I really hope Elliot brings the Alfa up and I can sit in the Alfa tomorrow. And then he's like, yeah, Ben, I think I'd like to take the Alfa out tomorrow. I'm thinking, oh no, I've got to do it twice. But no, it was really good fun. And the one advantage of that car being very small is that on some of the more tight technical roads, you just don't feel it. But the strange thing is, and I said to Elliot at the end of the trip, the second day was actually a lot better, by the way, because I didn't do a workout directly beforehand, so it was just my own fault. It was actually fine the second day.
Yeah,
was that as small as the Lotus is, I don't actually feel like when I'm driving the Alfa, it's that much bigger, even though it is that much bigger. It's so weird. But anyway, it's I'm sure we'll get onto it when we talk about best car for UK roads, fast road driving. But it was really good fun. If I had to ask you, Elliot, what was your favorite? Did you have a favorite moment of the trip?
I did. I mean, to be honest, other than what I already mentioned at the end of the day, just stood in the car park. We probably looked ridiculous to people were pulling into the hotel. It was like, why is there like 30 people stood in the car park holding beers? Like, why are they not in the park?
Yeah,
they just stood around the cars.
You have to imagine this, like, not only were we standing around the cars, which would have been fine when we were stood around Dean's 12-cylindery directly before he left, but Rob Cubitt came and parked the Fiesta ST exactly where Dean had been had been parked. And so then we were all 25 people stood around a Fiesta ST whilst Alex, the cameraman, revved the nuts off it. We must have looked like a bunch of hooligans.
Yeah, it was hilarious. So that was probably. Yeah, that was probably my highlight. But behind the wheel, I'd say my highlight was this. There was on the final section of our route, there was this really nice sweeping, and it was quite empty. And everyone, by that point, everyone's confidence has really built throughout the day. Everyone's gotten used to driving in a group, and they've gotten, you've kind of got acclimatized to the different paces within the group. And so people are really enjoying themselves and just kind of in a bit of a flow. We talk about that flow state quite a lot, don't we? But I think people are in that state by that period. And I had a really good drive in the Alfa on that third section, followed by one of our members called Gavin, who's got an E46 M3, and he knows how to drive. He's a very good driver. Took his E46 M3 to the Nürburgring only a couple of months earlier. Wow. So yeah, and it's not very often actually that you find people with cars like that really know how to drive them, and you know, he's clearly knows that car really well. So we had a really great drive, and it's one of those ones where at the end we like pulled over because we did some drone footage. Our cameraman Wayne did some drone footage and stuff, so we pulled over and we just got out the car, both of us beaming with smiles, and we just went over and just gave each other a high five. It was just like, yeah, that was properly good fun. So that was probably my highlight.
That's amazing. And when can you do that in the UK, right? Other than in Wales or potentially Scotland? Like, it's so rare that you enjoy a drive in the UK that much that you get out and high five your person you're with. You know, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Cool. I think mine was we had just left Bala. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah. And I was leading, and Chris Burns in his 458 was directly behind me, and he's a good driver as well. He's seemingly got lots of experience. He's definitely a true petrol head, and he you know, because when you're on the walkies and you're telling people to overtake, you know, when you don't know the person, you don't know what their judgment is like. And so there was a couple of times where I communicated, yep, Chris, you're good to go through. And I could sense that there was a bit of nervousness. But after a while, we got to really know each other just through the walkies as we were driving. And then, you know, when I was making the call outs, Chris was getting straight past, and he knew and he could trust me on that. And it felt like we built that trust. And then we had probably 25 minutes where we were actually ahead. There'd been a bit of traffic, so someone behind him had got caught in that. And so it was just me and Chris, 25 minutes just blasting, and we had no traffic. And it was just, really, really good. Because he also used to own an Exige as well. So it was almost like he was like looking into his past by following me. Yeah, it was really cool.
whilst behind the wheel of a 458, which is, you know, arguably Spider. One of those. that may come up later in the pod, who knows. But yeah, what a car. I think we should do our member car of the week now, given that we're going to pick them from Wales. And TJ, I know that you sadly couldn't be on this tour with us, but you've seen all the pictures. You know the lineup we had, so I'm sure you can still pick one based on what we've.
The pictures look amazing. I'll let you guys go first, and I'll just go off the pictures.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let you go first, Ben.
I think my favorite car on that trip, if I had to choose a car to drive, would have been the 488 Spider. I know everyone loves the 458, but I just, I think the turbochargers, whilst I appreciate it doesn't sound quite the same, I think in that it just looks so good. I've just seen some of the pictures, and I'm like, man,
it does look amazing.
488 looks so good. It drives amazingly, that was my car of the week. It was so hard between that and maybe one of the other cars that you're about to choose, Elliot. I'm not sure, but let's see.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I agree with you. The 488 does look unbelievable, and arguably, I think a 488 Spider looks, to me, slightly better than a 458 Spider. I don't really know why that is, but I just think they look so good. But I'm going to choose one that, to be honest, going into the tour, I wasn't like, my perception of this car wasn't the best. I wasn't a massive fan of that car, but then having seen this one in the flesh, it's actually changed my mind about the car. And so I'm going to choose Dean, our member's 12 Cylindri, because I've not been a huge fan of that car's looks in the past, but his car is so nicely spec'd. It's one of those Ferraris that I actually think looks better and it doesn't look good. It doesn't actually look as good in red. And his is this lovely kind of white, silvery, grayish like no one, everyone, like 3 people I spoke to called it different colors. One person said it was white, one person said it was silver, and someone else said it was gray. So it's like it's one of those colors that changes in different lights. But on that car, I think, and his is really nice. Like it's got white with these like predominantly silver wheels with some gloss black on them, and then he's got this lovely red interior, and the 12 cylindry has these lovely bucket seats, which carbon bodied with almost like, rather than like layered or wrapped in leather, they have like the leather pads basically on the carbon, and it just looks so nice. I can't describe it any other way. You'll see the
I'd love
pictures.
to see it in the flesh. I mean, the pictures look amazing, but I'd love to see it in the flesh. But yes, just a beautiful car. That long bonnet, right? That long bonnet of the front engine Ferraris. You gotta love that.
Yeah. So
very nice. And that was actually going to be my pick. And I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to keep it a Ferrari trio and just choose Anmol's 812 GTS in blue. I know we've chosen this car before. We're going to keep it as a prancing horse trio, which is probably a bit sad for some of you who don't have one. But that 812 GTS, every time I see it, you can't find a bad angle when you look at that car. And the blue, I think, stands out so much, especially in the photos. It looks amazing. So great idea bringing a professional photographer. It's apparently the photographer who does a lot of the supercar driver events, Wayne. And Wayne, if you're listening, amazing pics. I'm sure all of the people on the drive are enjoying the pic.
Yeah, they're definitely enjoying the pictures. I mean, we've only sent a few out as a little taster to everyone so far, like one each for their cars. So we think we've whet their appetite, but the full suite of photos should be coming through in the next day or so for people. So if you're listening now, you've already received them, and they're great, aren't they?
Exactly. So thanks to Wayne for capturing some of the enjoyment, and I'm sure we'll be posting some pictures for the rest of you guys to see in the coming weeks. So it was a great time.
I will tell you one thing, TJ, because this just made me laugh so much at the end. So obviously when we finished the day's driving, and me and Elliot have got another 3.5 hours driving until we get home, he says, Ben, I assume I'm taking the Lotus home on the motorway, for which I obviously said yes. And I whacked on, got in the comfy Alfa and put on the radar cruise on the way home. And then we got out at the end when we arrived at my house, and the Uber's waiting for Elliot to take him home. And Elliot goes, I just raw dogged it. I sat for 3.5 hours, no music on, no nothing. I just raw dogged it, Ben.
I tried to put
in the Lotus.
I tried to put some music on, and for some reason, I think last week or the week before, I was a bit under the weather, so I had like quite blocked sinuses and stuff, and I think basically the pressure in my sinuses has perforated my left eardrum, so my eardrum is like, this eardrum, like, it's making noise, like if I get basically background noise is like extra loud. So in the Lotus, I tried to put music on, and I was basically at max volume, and I could barely hear it. So I was just like, I'm just gonna literally I'm just gonna have to deal with the sound of wind and tires.
Yeah, what is a Lotus Exige like at 75 miles per hour on a British motorway? Is that, can you hear like the roof trying to tear away from it, or is it?
To be honest, it's not. It's actually, the roof is not actually that bad. I actually think it's mostly tire noise. Because there's just there's no real insulation, and because the roof is not technically like, it's not actually like sealed closed, like you can basically lift the fabric up at the back and look out even when the roof is on.
A little peephole for the Lotus.
So you do, which means that when you're flooring it, it's great because it's basically like your ears straight to the exhaust. But
the engine,
when you're on the motorway, it's but it's not quiet, let's put it that way.
It's not quiet. But I told Elliot, because I did 3.5 hours on the motorway on the way up, and I actually, once I put cruise control on, I did have my AirPods with me, and I think that made a big difference because I could isolate all the background noise.
Yeah.
And I said to Elliot, I said, I found a position for my elbow, which made a big difference. And it's just using the friction of the door because there's nothing to put your elbow on. So it's just like, it's like up here and I'm driving like this, but somehow I like got comfortable and I had my AirPods in.
You should get like a Velcro strip and attach it to the door and then get a special elbow Velcro that you can just stick it to the door.
But actually, there is one thing. Throughout the trip, not that we had a car issue, but the Lotus did come up with an intermittent fault. So you'd be driving, and after about 45 minutes of hard driving, it would just turn off traction control, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It just wants you to enjoy it more. It's like,
there's nothing you can do about it. And I was just thinking, I don't know the car well enough. Like the Alfa, I only drive in race mode, no aids. That's how I drive it. And I know it after 55,000 miles, but after 2,000 miles in the Lotus, I just don't know it well enough yet. And so I genuinely didn't want that, particularly as the lead car. I was just imagining like, on a steep descent and I'm suddenly braking and then turning and I didn't want it. And so it's going in. Fortunately, it's still under warranty with the dealer. So it's going into Lotus on next Tuesday to be looked at, hopefully. Apparently, it's something that happens. It's a wheel speed sensor that triggers the fault. Apparently, it's not a big deal. Easy to fix.
It doesn't seem like a big deal. I mean, it's just the car drove completely normally otherwise. So yeah.
All the petrol heads listening to this are their minds are going Lotus and problems. I think there's going to be more coming. It's not just a wheel speed sensor. Let's see what they say. But no, I mean, so far it's been good. It's been good, hasn't it? It hasn't really had any issues, and you've been properly driving it. So
maybe we can rename Lotus to lots of trouble, usually sensors.
There you go, yeah. Hopefully. Although that's Maserati. That's actually Maserati for a lot of people, I've heard. My dad had the Gran Turismo, and it's usually just sensors that are going wrong. It's electrical stuff. So there are, it's not just the Italians. Apparently, it's the Brits and the Italians. But there we go. Well, shall we move things along to our first topic, which is best sports car for the UK? What you're thinking about UK roads. You've got fairly narrow roads. You've got road surfaces that are not usually that great. You've got quite a bit of traffic, and you don't always have a lot of space to really open up a car, as we frequently mention on our podcasts. And we're sort of subtly selling the European driving tours as we do that. So, but it's true though, the roads out in Europe are a lot better for enjoying your cars. But with that all in mind, what would we say are some pretty good choices? If someone's listening to this podcast going, I'm thinking about a decent sports car for the UK. I want to actually drive it. I want to enjoy it. What would you guys be thinking of in terms of car choices?
Yeah, I know mine straight away. In terms of what I would choose and recommend. And we're not putting a budget on this, so I appreciate this. That maybe not everyone in the world will be able to afford these cars, but let's put budget to one side for this question and just talk about what car really can you just genuinely enjoy as a driver, in the UK. And for me, I think the key thing in the UK is that too much performance can sometimes mean that you're driving a car so far within its limits that you never really get a flavor for the best your car has to offer. And so in the UK, there are some fantastic roads. But they are often, a bit harder to come by, and they sometimes will have traffic. And, when you're driving in the UK, you're also conscious of your driving license. And so you don't want to be doing silly speeds. And so I think for me, the best car that I've ever driven and enjoyed in the UK is the Porsche 981 Cayman GT4. for me, that car is about 385 brake horsepower, manual gearbox, which I appreciate not everyone likes driving manual, but for me, I would pick a manual, and it's manual only. It sounds fantastic. The suspension is quite compliant. I know a lot of people complain about the long gearing in that car, but honestly, having spent a lot of time behind the wheel of one, and I drove it a lot in the UK and abroad, I think that's one of the best cars for the UK, because it's also such a small little car. Again, it's a bit like the Lotus, where it's like it's so small and you can really you can place the car even within your lane in the road, and I love cars that you can do that with. And I just thought it's a perfect amount of performance. You don't need more. It is fast. It sounds incredible. It wants you to rev it to the nines, and and I just think it's a great driver's car. So for me, I think that's a car you can genuinely enjoy the performance of in the UK, but also if you wanted to go abroad, you can also enjoy it there. But having driven it a lot in the UK, I know that it's such good fun on back roads, and it just leaves you, every control weight and everything in the car is just so well judged, as Porsche do, that I think it's just one of the greatest drivers' cars, full stop.
And that car, having been in it with you in the passenger seat as well, it also sounds inside the car, at least stock, a lot better than the 718 GT4. And from all the reviews that I've watched, is that the handling feel is that much sharper as well. It's almost like they've slightly desensitized the 718 versus the 981. So I've never driven it, but would be very, very keen to do so. If there's a member listening, and we do have some people with that car in the membership, and you come on a trip, let me have a go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think it makes more sense than the GT3s, and I think for the UK roads, I think the more compact, more playful, you still get all the theatre and enjoyment, but it's just, you can get more out of the car, I think, than the GT4. Long geared. I mean, sort of similar to my 996 Turbo. The gearing is quite long. In second gear, you can easily get up to 80. You can get up to 80 miles per hour. But it's still great fun to drive, and you've got a sizable engine in it, so you can't expect it to be highly short geared in that. So
and I think they did in that car. What they did well is, like, you don't need to be at the top of the revs to get the noise. Like, there's a really nice, like, growly kind of like surge from even from 2000 RPM to 4000 RPM, which means that, even if you're not going that quickly, putting your foot down just gives you those sensations. And so you actually don't find yourself frustrated by the fact that you haven't gone to the red line. Like, you actually still enjoy it regardless, which I think is perfect for the UK. I guess my only criticism of the car is price. They are still about 70,000, those cars, which they've basically been at for the last, probably 6-7 years now. They dipped a little bit and they've gone up a tiny bit, but basically in and around 60 to 70, depending on condition. Other than that, I'd say the only other downside is that it is quite a low car, and you don't have nose lift in that car, so you do often catch the front end on some of the more undulating, bumpy roads that we have in the UK. But in fairness, that front bumper is lined with a plastic section, which, if I had the car, I just wouldn't worry about scraping it a bit. It's just enjoy the car, use it. It's not made of carbon.
The RS has a carbon front splitter, doesn't it? But not the standard GT4. Is that right?
They didn't make an RS for the 981.
Not for the 981. Yeah.
So it's a
but for the
previous
718,
generation.
I think the 718 has a I think again it has a plastic like bottom splitter, so that if you do, catch it, but that's also got nose lift. So
right.
And it's I think slightly more stiffly sprung, which basically means it doesn't catch as much. But then it's slightly less enjoyable on our roads, I'd say, like less exploitable, shall we say. So anyway, it's a great car, as you can tell. I like it.
Yeah, okay, I like that. GT4. I'm going to see your GT4. I'm going to raise you with an Alpine A110S.
Oh, nice.
Why is that a raise? It's a raise because it's lighter, it's a smaller engine, and you can just get everything out of that car on a UK road. And I think I've been passenger, I haven't driven one myself, but I've been a passenger of someone driving it very spirited, which is Ben's dad over here, and he loves that car. He knows how to drive it. I mean, you've got 300 horsepower, so for a UK B road blast, I think that's kind of the sweet spot. I mean, you could get cars with more than that and still enjoy them, sure, but I think a 300 horsepower car, 7-speed dual clutch, it's rear wheel drive. It's quick enough to enjoy kind of going on a UK tour with. You're never going to feel like you're being left behind in that. But it's just so precise and grippy and fun to be in. So do I particularly like how the interior looks? Not really. But I think the car itself is a car that you'd look forward to getting in on the weekend in the UK and properly driving it, enjoying it. And I think it's a real driver's car. So when you see one on the road, it kind of just looks proportionally correct in the UK.
Yeah.
It's a small car, but on a country road, it just looks proportionally like it belongs there. Whereas I think most modern sports cars just don't look right on most UK roads. They're like, this car should be on a much bigger track than where it's at right now. Like talking of the 12 Cylindri, for example, car that's a beautifully designed car, but definitely looks out of place on the pictures that I'm looking at in Wales. But that being said, given that we're talking about cars that are the best for the UK, I don't think you can go wrong with an Alpine A110, A110S if you can.
A great shout. I think a lot of people talk about, or a lot of journalists talk about the standard A110 being the better choice.
Really?
Which, because of its more fluid ride, less stiffness, and you get there's just more fluidity to the handling, basically. Maybe because maybe it's just personal preference, but I actually quite like the slightly more stiffly sprung car. So I would personally choose the S over the base model. And even Ben, your dad's car is not a standard pure. It once was, but it's far from it now. He's got his own name for it, which is the A110 Superior. So every time he signs up to any of our events or something, it's an A110 SU. It's got his own model designation.
He's having some stuff done right now to it.
Of course he is. He's always having stuff done to it.
Well, this is like he's had a new exhaust built for it, custom.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So he's had a new exhaust. He's got new radiator, and he's had the underside, the under tray of the car. He's had some additional cooling put in. So he's pretty excited with that. I would say the only thing about both your choices is that, well, for the Cayman, I love that car. Have genuinely thought about buying one myself. But when I drive, like for example, when I drive the Alfa, which is actually very short geared, I really like that because you're never being able to go that fast in the UK, and so the drama you get with the changing of gears regularly makes, I think, for a more fun experience. And that's the one thing I'd say about like driving the Exige around, is that it's got shorter gearing than the Cayman, but it's still pretty long.
Still gearing. Quite long. Yeah,
it's still long. It's still long, And as a result, you're not getting to play around with the gears as much as I like. So for me, I think that the A110 on that basis is a little better.
Yeah.
I've driven the regular one many times before my dad did all the modifications to it, and it's a little bit soft. I agree with you, Elliot. It needs to just be firmed up a little bit, which you can easily do aftermarket, because the S is just slightly stiffer and it's got an extra 50 horsepower, which, given its turbocharge, you can just do with an easy stage 1 remap and some new springs.
To be fair, the S is quite a lot stiffer. It's actually got the anti-roll bars are 200% stiffer. So or 100% stiffer, I think it is. Sorry. So it's quite a lot stiffer, which does make a difference. But I completely agree with you about the gearing. I think the A110 has lovely short gearing, which makes it really fun to go. You know, you're doing a lot when you're driving, which I think is more fun.
Which is fun. But I still think 300, 380 is a little light. I want a bit more power. I've always said, I think the sweet spot, I know you guys are going to be like, you don't need that much. I always think sweet spot 600.
It's not about power. It's about power to weight. It's the power to weight ratio.
Exactly.
I know that. I've got a car that's light and got less horsepower, and I've got one that's a bit heavier and got more. But there's still a sense when you are going and suddenly the turbos kick in and you get pushed back, which you only get, I think, when you've got a car, I think, with over 500 horsepower, do you get that feeling? And I love that. Even yours, TJ, which has got the X50 package on, which takes it up to 550 in that car.
I think it's a bit less, but yeah, it's like close to 500, I think.
And you really get that boost. I love that feeling. It gives me a sense of drama. And that's what, in a naturally aspirated car, even with a supercharged car like the Exige, it's so linear that in many ways that's really good. And I know a lot of people love that. But there's something about having the turbos kick in. There's something there's something there about being able to play with the gears that little bit more. So for me, I know, Elliot, you hate this car, and I don't care, actually. But I also want a convertible. So I was thinking, okay, well, what will give me similar sort of feeling to the Alfa? Because I can't just pick the Alfa. But gives me the convertible, but gives me that sense of occasion with the gearing. And it's reasonably short. And so and I know this is controversial, and I know a lot of people will be like, that's not even a real Ferrari. I love the Portofino. I'm not a massive fan of how it looks. I like the back end. The front end's okay. But I think for me, it's basically like the step up from the Alfa without a roof. And I think because it's an Italian car, hear me out, I think it will be much better and softly sprung, a bit like the Alfa, because they tend to build their cars with better suspension than the Germans, for our roads, at least. So for me, it's a Portofino M, be fair, Portofino M.
Feels like you had to explain that one a lot to justify it.
Only to you, mate. Only to you. To anyone else, I'd just be like, yeah, Portofino M. And they'd be like,
all right.
What's that?
If you're, if you're listening, in the comments, whose side are you on? My side or Ben's side?
Oh, dear.
No, fair enough. I mean, look, different strokes for different folks. I think that's the nice thing about cars, isn't it? Is like, it depends what you like. I completely acknowledge not everyone wants to drive manual. Not everyone will find the Cayman GT4 powerful enough, and it depends on so many different things, even your personal driving style. So I'm only kidding. I do genuinely understand, like, that actually the nice thing about cars is that different people enjoy different things about driving, and so there's a car out there for everyone, which is cool. Mine just happens to often be a Porsche.
True. I think it depends so much on what you've owned previously, what you've driven, what you've been in, and what you enjoy, right? And that so often informs kind of what you look to next. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Portofino's I think is a great looking car. Haven't driven one, but I do like how they look. Looks better than the California anyway. I would say.
Being quiet.
Elliot disagrees. Elliot disagrees. I think it's a good looking car.
Elliot hates the original California, likes the Cali T, hates the Portofino. You can't. You have to be very specific to please Elliot.
Very specific.
Yeah, you do.
Fair enough. Well, shall we talk about our next topic, which is actually a car I don't know a great deal about yet. It was just unveiled. I believe it was unveiled at Monterey Car Week. I could be wrong. It may have been unveiled somewhere else, but that's where I saw it pop up. And it's the new McLaren MCL6 GT. Yeah. And what makes it particularly noteworthy, which I think is what most people are talking about, is that it's a manual. It's a manuale, as the Italians would say. So the McLaren 6 GT. Maybe let's go to Elliot, who can tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I think it's a pretty cool thing. And when it first got unveiled, we were straight in the group chat, pretty much all simultaneously messaging about this car, because after seeing the 12 Cilindri Manuale and now seeing this car, I think it's interesting. It raises the question of if the tides are turning a little bit about, everyone just chasing maximum numbers on paper, and instead, they're making cars to really trigger emotion for the drivers, I think, which is quite cool. And I think this is one of those cars. I mean, my only complaint is that it's one of those. At the moment, those cars are really only at the sort of hypercar price level, and so we need to start seeing some of this stuff become more obtainable. And it's not just about manual gearboxes. I think it's a number of different factors. I mean, with this car, what's cool about it is it weighs less than like 1,400 kgs. It has got a manual gearbox. I can't remember the exact power figures. I'll have to look it up in a second.
It's rear-wheel drive.
It's around about 600 horsepower rear-wheel drive. So Ben, in your perfect sweet spot.
I know. I know. Well, you saw how excited I was, but for multiple reasons. Which I'll give a different take on it in a minute, Elliot. But continue.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's quite cool. I think it looks really good. It's kind of got that, which I'm sure they did on purpose, but it's got that kind of like poster supercar look to it. The shape, the proportions, the low, big haunches. I think it looks really cool. It's different looking to every other McLaren, in my opinion, which I appreciate is probably partly because it's not just a typical model range McLaren, it's a special car. But they've really thought first about they built the car based on what would Bruce McLaren build today if he was to build a car. And I quite like that thinking. That to me suggests that these manufacturers are starting to think differently about how they build cars. It's not just about having the biggest numbers on paper or, looking absolutely insane and has to look more insane than the previous one, has to look like a race car. Actually, it's more about the kind of emotional experience of the car, which I think, if we start seeing that trickle down into more affordable cars, you never know. The sports and supercars could start making a bit of a comeback in this modern era. So fingers crossed, it gave me some confidence for the future.
Exactly.
I agree. I think, because bear in mind, they would have had to make this decision quite a number of years ago as well. And I think a lot of manufacturers could make this decision now, but to have made it 4 years ago, which is probably the development time for the car, all respect to McLaren, because at the time they were getting beaten up. They weren't really, they'd pretty much finished selling 720s. They had no product to sell. They were doing terribly in F1. And then suddenly now McLaren is, the brand is getting a bit more hype after obviously winning the Constructors' Championship last year in F1. Now, finally, after people have waited, 10 years for a different looking McLaren, they deliver it. And it looks like, we were discussing this, I think the lights look almost like F40-esque. But the body styling looks MC20. And the fact that there's no spoilers, it's like a clean look.
Yeah.
I think it's just absolutely beautiful. One of the best looking cars, I think, that's come out in a long time.
Yeah.
I think if I was owning a W1 or this, I'd rather have this all day long. No hybrid, rear wheel drive, manual, and as they said in the McLaren ad, authentic manual, which I thought was so good.
A bit of a kick in the nads to Ferrari there. Have a bit of that.
No manual by wire, which I'm actually not I don't have an issue with, but I know a lot of people have been commenting on that. My only disappointment is that they're going to sell this car for $1.5 million and they're only going to make 500 of them. That I think is a massive shame, because I think if they priced this more sensibly, they could actually sell that car in pretty big volumes, and it could probably help McLaren quite a lot.
But I think that's what these types of cars are for. These like speciality cars are a bit of a, if you're a brand like that, like when you release a speciality car like that, 9 times out of 10 you're going to sell most of them because they're low volume and super high price, and a lot of people will just buy them because they're super high price.
That will be sold out. That car will be sold out.
Yeah, it'll be sold out. But it gives you an opportunity to see how the market responds to you doing stuff like this. And I think the overwhelming positivity about the fact that you've got a hydraulic steering, conventional manual gearbox, rear wheel drive supercar that looks fantastic might give no hybrid might give McLaren the confidence to go, well, let's invest more in making our current production line, aligned with these types of cars. And that doesn't mean that they'll all now be manual gearbox cars with, rear wheel drive or whatever, but it will show that the market wants these types of cars. And people want to see that in the more regular high volume cars. So I think it's quite a good thing, and that's why I think it gives me confidence for the future, is because let's hope you'd see it trickle down. I think it's a missed opportunity if you don't.
Yeah.
Can I make one other point, TJ, and then I want to hear your views on the car. The thing that made me very happy about this car was not just the fact that I think it's cool and it's got a manual gearbox, V8, rear wheel drive, hydraulic steering, all that stuff that we've discussed. If I just bought a special manual Ferrari, I'd actually be quite concerned right now. If I just dropped whatever the stupid numbers that were getting dropped at Sotheby's at the Monterey auction, I genuinely would be quite worried, because I think we're at an era right now where people are going mental, particularly for Ferraris, for anything manual, because they think nothing else manual is coming. And if the OEMs switch back, they start doing manual cars that are cool, then I think people will lose the willingness to pay these obscene prices for some of these cars.
Yeah.
And particularly if they do them limited edition, like they're more limited edition in nature as well. And it just made me think, I want some of these investors who are taking all these cars off the road, bidding them up to ridiculous prices, probably, got a money laundering empire behind it. I just want them to get kicked in the nads,
Don't we all?
I want bad things to happen. Because I want those cars to still be achievable. But that was another thing that made me happy that McLaren did that, because I think we've seen it in the past. When the MP 4-12C came out, by the way, I don't know if I ever told you this, I went to Ricardo, who used to build the engines for that. They were actually a client when I was in banking, and they took me out with a test driver, and I really got to feel that car. It's an awesome car.
That's cool.
And think about how much all the OEMs like Ferrari and Porsche stepped up after that car got launched. So that's my hope with this. That's my hope.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
I love it. I mean, just echo what you guys are saying. I love the heritage behind it, how it was kind of an unfinished vision that the founder had. And even the badges that they've put on it are like unique badges for this car based on what Bruce McLaren used to have on his race cars, this little shield.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. The fact that, McLaren are building sort of what in its spirit and in its essence is just an analog sort of supercar.
Yeah.
Manual, little exposed manual shifter inside. I just think it's so cool. It's just nice to see 3 pedals in a new car. But I love it. I love the color, the fact that it's only coming out in this color. I think that's actually quite interesting. And I think if you're a McLaren F1 owner and you're thinking, well, I've got a car that's worth, how much is a McLaren F1 worth? It could be tens of millions, probably. Yeah. Why would you not put $1.5 million into this? Dollars or pounds or whatever it is, it's sort of irrelevant. Why would you not? Because I think you've got a car that's basically of the same spirit being produced now by McLaren with all the modern technology, but still with an analog essence to it. I think it would make a lot of sense for a lot of McLaren F1 owners who are thinking, I want to be able to drive my McLaren F1, but have all the modern engineering around it, still get the same feeling. I think it's I think it makes a lot of sense, and like you say, I think they probably will have sold all of them before they start even finishing them. So
it will be
really cool.
Really interesting to see when there's some like journalists reviews or whatever videos on it. It'll be really interesting to see if all of the correct ingredients on paper still add up to the car being amazing to drive, or whether people, whether it's been such a long time now that people will actually feel like it just doesn't feel as good as a Revuelto or something like that. It will be interesting to see, actually.
Yeah, it will be. But what I like is they even just reading the write-up on McLaren's own website, they're what they're describing with the gear shift, they're saying knurled machined aluminium controls and meticulous ergonomics reinforce the same human-machine connection, including detailing inspired by the M6 GT, which is the original Bruce McLaren unfinished model. Then it says the design of the gear stick has been carefully considered for maximum feel and throw, but also incorporates design inspired by McLaren's heritage with a 3-dimensional speedy Kiwi set within its upright. So they're really thinking about how the car feels, like even the feel of the shifter, which I think will be interesting to see whether, like you say, when journalists start driving it, will it deliver on that? But love the concept.
One thing is that have you ever watched a review that hasn't said a McLaren has driven brilliantly?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like they know how to make an amazing driving car. So,
because even Ferrari gets it wrong sometimes, where the steering feel isn't quite right. Have you ever heard someone ever say that McLaren steering isn't good?
Well, it's because it's hydraulic and they're sticking with it, and I respect it massively. And I think I agree with you, Ben. That's kind of why I said that statement, because I think McLaren will nail it. Of all the brands, I actually think they're the ones that will nail this sort of thing. So it does make me quite excited, actually.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Just wish it wasn't
Aston Martin Valhalla or McLaren 6 GT.
I'm taking the Mackie D6 GT all day.
About the same price, sort of similar looking car, actually, now that I'm looking at the photo. Not wildly different in looks, kind of quite clean lines as opposed to the angular sort of doors of a lot of other McLarens.
You know what car it makes me think about? The shapes. It reminds me of an XJ220, the old like
long back, long rear.
Yeah.
You know, that
Supercar,
long rear,
Jaguar Supercar. It's got that same shape, especially at the back.
flowing. Yeah, it's true. Nice, beautiful car.
Beautiful car.
On the topic of Monterey Car Week, which sadly none of us were at, and one day we will all go. We'll do an Ottano trip to Monterey Car Week.
Maybe,
we're gonna keep working on that. But it's always interesting to see the records that are being broken, right, when you watch the car sales there. And we know that we're not talking about the real world here. We're talking about a pretty unique set of individuals who have the money to be able to come to an auction and basically flex how much money they have. But there were some pretty interesting results from Monterey Car Week, from your sort of Ferrari F40s and F50s reaching some record pricing, to even some of the more sort of, you can't really say run-of-the-mill Ferraris because that's a bit of a contradiction, but F12s, 458s, and the like, reaching some crazy eye-watering sums which you never thought they'd be reaching. But where do we start? I mean, I think we're not going to spend much time talking about it, but the $40 million Luce was perhaps the most headline sort of catching sale. But it's not really a car sale because it was basically a charitable donation by a billionaire. So it's effectively a tax write-off from what it looks like, or money laundering, or both. I mean, you guys can share about that, but the next one I wanted to talk about is the McLaren F1 GTR. That was owned by Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, because what a cool car, but sold for less than the Luce. So if I've just spent 40 million quid and walked out with a Luce, and then the guy next to me is driving off in his 1996 McLaren F1 GTR, formerly owned by Pink Floyd, I'd be questioning my decisions and why I've arrived here in life. But there we go.
Yeah. I've got two things to say about the Luce one. The first is, this is a sort of question as well, because I'm not even sure, but the question is whether because I don't think the actual winning bid was exactly $40 million. I think it was like, once you tallied up the RM Sotheby's fees,
surely they're not taking fees on the charitable donation.
Well, that was my question.
They probably are.
That's what we got to come back on.
That was my question. That was my question.
Let's find out.
I'm not stating that. I'm wondering.
We should find out.
Because Sotheby's from this weekend or this week are absolutely laughing all the way to the bank.
Oh my gosh.
Some of those
imagine the fees they've made.
Must be quite nice. I mean, we were talking about a particular one that sold, which we'll come to in a second. And the other thing I've got to say on the Luce is just that we've talked on previous pods about this bubble within the US that, for those that have watched our earlier podcasts where we talked about Goodwood, will understand this reference, but it seems to become a bit of a yang wang swinging contest in the in the US at the moment. People are basically, as you said, I think it feels like people are just going there to basically flex how minted they are by just making these throwaway purchases of these crazy amounts of money, which feels a bit like we've lost a bit of touch with reality as humanity here. But it does lead to some quite interesting conversations about some of the results. The Luce thing, I'm not even going to go there. As TJ said, at least it was for charity.
It's not a sale of a car. So to be honest, doesn't, and that car doesn't even deserve any airtime. So the auction result doesn't really deserve any airtime either. It's not real.
Yeah.
We do need to check if RM Sotheby's has made a commission on that, because if so, that is criminal. But if you still want to sponsor the pod, you can. But I heard that they sold 750 million of sales over the week, and given that typical auctions, they make what, 12.5% fees, TJ, like live auctions. And I think that's just on the seller. Maybe there's a buyer fee as well. You know, these guys have probably made the better part of $100 million for a few blokes standing up there hammering the cars.
Yeah, I mean that
crazy, isn't it?
That Daytona SP3 that sold through Sotheby's for 17,800,000, I think it was, something like that.
It's ridiculous.
That car, the highest bid was actually like 16,100,000. So the rest is all fees, which is like,
wow.
And that happened in like 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes, and they've made like 2 million quid. So they're absolutely laughing all the way to the bank.
That's a good time to plug the fact that Ottano will be launching its own marketplace in October, where we will be capping the fees on a car sale. So you won't need to worry about us making 1.7 million in fees on a car.
And if we ever do any charitable auctions, we shall not be making any commissions whatsoever. We'll state that clearly from the outset.
Yeah,
true.
Although I suspect most of the cars on our platform won't be worth $17 million.
That's true.
This is true.
Highly unlikely.
This is true.
You never know, but
one day,
maybe one day.
So
there's some quite interesting results, though.
Yeah, I was just going to mention a couple of interesting ones that I saw. So a 1995 Ferrari F50, formerly owned by Mike Tyson, went for $12.1 million. And the last time it sold just 4 years ago for 4.6. So that kind of gives you an indication of where the F50 has gone in just a few years. Because I think that's, it used to be sort of the awkward middle child, right, between the F40 and the Enzo. And now it's actually being seen perhaps as the star of that trio. Naturally aspirated V12 manual, manual steering. So that's kind of got a complete reappraisal that it's undergone. But of course, there was a 288 GTO, which set a new model record of $11.5 million. Just rocketed in price.
The one that caught my eye, that surprised me, and I don't know the history. Maybe it's somewhere on your list there, TJ. But the one that really shocked me was there was a Ferrari F12 Berlinetta, which is a normal model range Ferrari, that sold for nearly $900,000, and it was like a light blue color. I don't know.
It's not even a nice color for that car. I think
it's not even a good color for the car. There must be some sort of ownership history to it, but stuff like that I'm struggling to understand. And even there was a 430 Scuderia which went for like $1.5 million. Like, that stuff just makes me like, who is buying this stuff, and are they morons?
I have to think that there's someone in the US who has they've gone out and they've bought all the 430 Scuds they can get their hands on, and they put one into an auction like this, and there's something behind the scenes that gets it bid up to a ludicrous value, and then they release the rest of their cars, or there's something like that.
I just think it's people looking at the models that have rocketed, like your 288 GTO or F40s, and they're thinking in the future terms and thinking, well, if this is under $1 million now, it's going to be 5-10 million in 10 years from now, or 20 years from now.
But you can buy an F12. Just buy a low mileage F12 for $200,000, and then just put it into storage and just keep it there for 30 years. Why do you need to spend $9 million on one?
Or 900,000.
900,000.
Yeah. I don't know, actually. it must have been, there must have been a story to that car, surely, because I can't see it. That doesn't seem to make sense. Maybe it was either it had delivery miles or there was a famous owner, or but for a standard one, just because it's a nice color, that just seems ridiculous.
I mean, I can get I can somehow, some part of me understands the 35 million quid for, the McLaren F1 GTR. Because it's almost like, it's like fine art. It's like paying for an original piece of fine art from hundreds of years ago that's been well kept. It's like, it's got a whole story to it. It's not really you're not really buying it as a car anymore. You're buying it as a bit of a story. And obviously that's the big leagues at that point, that you're talking about $30 million. But the more regular cars, I just don't get it personally. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. It is crazy.
I agree. Although I think, the auction results aside, I do sense that there might be a little bit, things have got so crazy. I mean, we were discussing today, like SLSs are suddenly getting put up at 450 grand. TGE, who, is not helping this, because every time one of his cars goes up in value, he suddenly says it should double again. And he's made some smart buys, but I've lost a bit of respect for that man. He just keeps plugging away at his own agenda, shamelessly as well. But I watched an interesting video about a guy, because all the lightweight special stuff is going up across all the brands. I do think that people are going to get caught with their pants down here, some people. And a lot of the cars are on SOR, they won't sell, they'll go back to their owners, that will be fine.
Yeah.
But the people who have actually bought in at these higher prices, let's talk about STOs for a moment, given Elliot, your dad used to have one of these, probably sold at the trough of the market as well, unfortunately.
Probably, yeah.
And this guy was talking about the fact that he'd sold his for 275. And, most of those cars new were about 325, 330. And now they're being advertised for 400. And he said, I made a mistake. I went to the dealer to buy it back, and they immediately offered him 75 grand off the headline price. So they said, you can have it for 325, even though it's up for 400. To me, there's a bubble when when that happens.
Not a great sign.
Yeah.
There's definitely a bubble. I think some cars will be protected where they're just super low numbers, like the F50, or even like there was a Porsche 959 Sport in white, which sold for $7 million.
Yeah.
But they only made 29 of them.
Yeah. So it makes
and
sense.
there's only 11 in white, and there's only 2 with air conditioning apparently. And then again, a Formula One driver called Nick Heinfield owned this one. So I think there are some cars, obviously, that will always sort of be protected from that. But I think there's going to be a lot of cars which will take a bath, and the market will cool, and they'll come back down to earth, and people will realize that they overpaid for them during some sort of period where there was just a bit too much hysteria and fever over lightweight sort of cars of that era.
Yeah.
You know what I need to do? I need to cool up Michael Burry. I need to cool up Goldman.
The big short guy.
And I need to see if Goldman's will make me a market in put options on a basket of different supercar prices. So for those of you who don't know what put options are, give it a Google. But for the finance nerds on the podcast, I've got you. Don't worry.
And thinking, how do I short this market?
Yeah,
I would love to short a basket of some of this lightweight stuff in the UK, but it's not liquid, so I'm not sure that I'd be able to make it. Someone would make a market.
It would be very interesting to know what the banks would say about that, though. I'd be so intrigued.
Just go and borrow someone's car, Ben, for a year. Say, do you mind if I borrow your car for a year? Sell it, wait for the market to drop, buy it back and return it to them.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of risk in me not being able to buy it back and then being like, where's my car, mate?
Gone.
Mate.
I shorted it. Sorry.
Sorry, mate.
I shorted it.
I shorted it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, on that note, lads, I think that's a good place to close our podcast here today. It's been a very interesting back and forth about lots of different aspects of cars and the market this week. But given that we've done our sort of member car of the week from our Wales trip, we won't end with our usual members car of the week close. I think we'll just close it here and say we'll see you next week on the Ottano pod, and we're looking forward to having you listen again. Please do subscribe and share it if you haven't shared it with other car people that you know, petrol heads, and we'll catch you next time on the Ottano podcast. Cheers, guys.
Thanks
Cheers.
all.
Bye.
Yeah,
all right, bye.